Okay, so this is the non-performance option, okay, for Woke, a young poet's call to justice. So for this, you are analyzing a poem, meaning you're taking a poem and you're kind of picking it apart and trying to understand what it means and all of that, okay? So you're not performing it, okay? You are going to be writing about that poem, okay? So if that is not something that sounds like really awesome to you and you're jazzed about, you probably should look at the performance part of it. Sophie, go away. So, for this assignment, okay, remember that there is a blue link there that says read this assignment to me, okay? And remember that anything that is in blue and underlined is a hyperlink, okay? Meaning that when you right-click it, that will take you to something else. Okay, so in this case, it takes you to an audio file where it reads this to you. Okay, so if you don't want to see this video, don't want to wait, you can just click that audio file. But I'm walking you through this assignment. All right, so directions. Okay, watch these videos. Okay, it's really important that you actually watch these 3 videos. Okay, these 3 videos help expose you to a couple of these poems. Okay, because if you just click on that PDF, I can understand it being a little overwhelming because it is 81 pages. And for some people, 81 pages is a really long book, right? Especially for a picture book. It's not really 81 pages. Remember that I took pictures of each, when you open a book, there's 2 pages, right? And so I took a picture of this page and this page, so 2, and then also a picture of the pages together, okay? So that's a total of 3, right? So, yeah. So what these videos do, okay, is the author, okay, in 2 of the videos, the author is doing a performance of one or more of the poems from this book, okay? So it can expose you to, here's an example of how these can be performed, okay? And sometimes when we see something performed or when we hear something performed, then we understand it better. Okay, I know that when I first read something, sometimes I don't understand it as well. Sometimes I need to read it again. All right, so go watch those videos, now. So now you're going to look through the PDF of that book, okay? So you're going to right-click that blue line that says digital copy, okay? That will take you to the picture book of Woke, okay? And you're going to look through that document, okay? And you're going to see which one of those poems, okay? You're like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, do you need to read the whole book? No, okay? What I would do is I would kind of glance through it. Okay, so open it, and then the PDF, right, you kind of scroll down. Okay, so you want to scroll down, 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 and maybe find a picture that catches your eye. Okay, and be like, oh, okay, and so then kind of glance over that poem and oh, okay, no, that's not a subject I really want to, delve into. Okay, and then keep going. So don't just pick the first one, okay, because you don't want to, spend all this time analyzing and trying to figure this poem out if it's not a poem that you like or that, you have any interest in. That's why I gave you so many choices, okay? So find something that works for you, okay? So now we're talking about the graphic organizer, okay? So this is the bread and butter of your assignment, okay? This is the main thing, okay? So what this says is, use the poetry analysis graphic organizer to analyze the poem. Since you're not performing the poem, I expect your answers to be thorough. So 3 to 5 sentences unless otherwise noted or stated. And incomplete sentences that are defended with references to the text. Okay, now let's go into that about what I mean. Okay, so when you open your graphic organizer, okay, the first thing that you see, okay, are those same directions that I just read, okay? Choose one of the poems to read and analyze. Since you're not performing, yada, 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 okay? So for this, it says title, okay? So we're looking on the left side, okay? Look on the left side. Before you even think about reading the poem or trying to analyze it, speculate, okay? So think about, make a prediction, okay, on what you think the poem might be about based on the title. Oftentimes, poets conceal meanings in the title and give clues in the title. Okay, so you're going to jot down what you think this poem will be about. Okay, and then you're going to read the poem. Okay, so where it's in purple, okay, on the right, says, write your answer to the question here. Delete this message and replace with your answer, written in complete sentences. Okay, so I don't know if your other teachers have ever said this, but a lot of people use the acronym TTQA. Okay, so I think that's what it is. But basically meaning you want to repeat kind of the question before answering it. So, for instance, you might say for this question, I think the meaning of the poem Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue is that we are all different colored flowers living in a big garden. And I think that because I think that is a great analogy and I love flowers. Okay, so again, this is your opinion, okay? It's your prediction. So as long as it's not something completely outrageous, like I think the title Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue is about monkeys who love to do the cha-cha and eat tacos and have snowball fights. Like that would make no sense, right? So, and that has nothing to do with the flowers or the colors or any of that, okay? But as long as it has something to do with that, it's your opinion, right? So it can't be wrong, okay? All right, so that's about the title. So go write about that. I'll wait. Okay, now here's a big section, okay? This is worth the most points out of this whole thing, 20 points, okay? So if you think your response, okay, is 20 points worth, great, okay? But if you look at your response and you're like, maybe not, you need to write more, okay? So here's the direction. So paraphrase. Before you begin to analyze the poem, don't overlook the literal meaning of the poem. So, and you see that that's in bold, so that means like that's the most important part, okay? Write in your own words exactly what happens in the poem. Okay, so your first sentence should identify the general subject of the poem. So for instance, a red, red rose is, and notice that how that is in quotes, okay, so the title is in quotations, okay, so a red, red rose is about how much one person loves another. Okay, then look at the number of sentences, okay, so say that poem is 10 sentences. Okay, 10 lines long, rather. Okay, that's how long you need to write yours. Okay, a paraphrase is you're rewriting it and putting it in your own words. It is not a summary, and I think that's where some people got confused. Is a summary is saying, here's what basically happened in 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, 1 or 2 sentences is not going to get you 20 points. Okay, so you're proving to me that you understand the poem by rewriting it in your own words. Okay? So for roses are red, violets are blue, okay, I might say, the flower that smells so sweet of thorned bush is crimson in color and square purplish, yellowish flowers are maroon. All right, attitude. Now you are ready to explore the multiple attitudes that may be present in this poem. So examination of the diction, okay, so meaning how those words sound when you say them, okay. Details and images suggest the speaker's attitude towards the subject, and it contributes to the understanding, okay. So what is the poet's attitude towards the subject of this poem? So what it wants to know is the person who's writing this, like, why are they writing this? What is the purpose, okay? Are they, an attitude, remember, could be like, are they hopeful about it? Are they fearful? Are they, so it, what kind of emotion are they trying to elicit or trying to get across to you, okay? And then you want to explain why you know, okay? So defend your answer with evidence within the poem, okay? So I think that this poem is trying to convince me to be more aware of people who aren't as able-bodied as me. And I know that because in the poem about ableism, it talks about a kid who is in a wheelchair, and he is still able to do lots of things even though he can't walk and he's in a wheelchair. And I think that this poem is very hopeful because of that. Okay, now notice I kind of fleshed that out. Okay, I didn't just write hopeful. Okay, because that's not worth 5 points. Okay, you have to do the whole thing. Okay, all right, so go do that. Let's talk about structure and shifts. Now, this is probably the hardest part for people. This is what I get the most questions about. Okay, now, if you have never analyzed poetry before, this is hard. But I want to point you to an amazing resource that you have right at your fingertips, the internet. Okay, so if there is something, again, please don't hesitate to message me or comment to me. But if there's something that you can look up, like what does this mean? You can look it up on the internet. Okay, Google and Yahoo and Bing and all of these other search engines are there for you. Okay, and the little, cloud robot world will answer you, right? So here's what this says. Structure. What type of poem is this? Okay, how might we classify this? Okay, so if you don't know what a narrative, a free verse, a lyric, a sonnet, or a ballad are, look up those definitions and then compare the definitions to what your poem looks like. Okay, so you've got to do kind of some comparison and some research. Okay, so go do that. And remember, when you answer, you're answering in a complete sentence. Okay, so my poem, comma, and then what the title of your poem is. My poem has a structure of narrative or free verse or whatever. Okay. All right, so then shifts, okay? The shifts is you're going to be looking at your poem kind of with a magnifying glass, all right? And you're going to be really looking, okay, to see where there are kind of these key things here. Okay, so the poet's understanding of an experience is a gradual realization, and the poem is a reflection of that understanding or insight, okay? So the poem is showing that author process as they are exploring that theme, as they are kind of thinking through or working through what that might mean. okay? So some things that you want to look out for are key words like but, 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 yet, however, although, okay? So those are things that, those are like a change of direction, okay? So if you were walking your poem, okay? So if you were walking straight ahead, okay, and you got to a but, you would stop. And if you would, or yet, or whatever, and then you might take a turn, okay, because that, you're going in a different direction, okay? Punctuation, so dashes, periods, colons, ellipsis. So remember that those tell you when there are like pauses or when you stop. And so, you know, it's kind of the end of a thought, right? Or portion of a thought, okay? So you want to detail what kind of things there are in there. Stanza divisions, okay? And so that is like sections, okay? So like if there's like a section here and then a section here and then a section here, like there's space in between them, okay? That has been done on purpose, right? To bring attention to that. Okay, so if you were going to convert that to what that means in book form, stanzas would be like the chapters, if you will. Okay? All right, so then there are, if there's changes in the line or the stanza length, or both, okay, so meaning there are a couple of these poems where, say, there's like a long sentence, and then it just says, we will believe, we will rise, we will blah, blah. Those small statements, okay, that's a difference. That's a shift, okay, because you're going from this lyrical sentences. We are going to do this. We're going to do this, and I hope we will do this. But I know that we will do this. We will do this. We will do this. Okay, that's a difference that you need to pay attention to. Okay, irony. So something. You know that song, Isn't It Ironic, by Alanis Morissette. So they say like rain on your wedding day, or you know, a fly in your Chardonnay, right? So these are like something great and then something bad happens. Okay, so that's the irony. Changes in sound that may indicate changes in meaning. Okay, sometimes you hear this a lot in in jokes and other things, but where the sound of a word changes for it to have like a different meaning or a different sometimes like sometimes some words like have a double meaning, I'm trying to think of one. Now that we've gone over what those things are, what shifts there are, okay, now you want to look at your poem and try and figure out where there are any shifts in that poem, okay? And if there are examples of these things, which I can guarantee you that in all of these poems, there are shifts in them, okay? What does that mean? What do you speculate? What do you think, okay, that the author is trying to get us as the audience, the person reading or hearing the poem, what does that author want us to feel or to see or to hear, okay? So again, remember, poets, they're trying to get you to understand something or to get something, but it's like paintings or other pieces of art. They present something. How you take it is up to you. Okay? Okay, so for the title, now look at the title again, okay, but this time on an interpretive level. So what new insight does this title provide in understanding the poem? Okay, so basically, now that you've examined the poem, on a deeper level, how does that title help you as the audience member? How do you get the poem? How do you understand the poem better? Okay, or and then how has your opinion of the poem changed? Okay, now you need to defend your answer, so you cannot just write nothing. Okay, or my opinion has not changed. Okay, you need to expand on that. Like, if your opinion really hasn't changed, okay, you might say, my opinion of the poem hasn't changed because the title of this poem, and then say the title, okay, the title of this poem is very self-explanatory, and I understand, it's very, very blatant. We are nearing the end here. All right, theme. Okay, what is the poem saying about the human experience, motivation, or condition? So, what do you learn about the subject of the poem? And then, what idea does the poem want you to take away with you concerning the subject of the poem? Okay, so let's go back to the beginning part. Okay, so what is the poem saying about the human experience? So, if your poem is about trees and beauty, what is that saying, okay, about our human experience? Okay, getting back in touch with nature. What do you learn about the subject of the poem? Okay, so what new information or a more in-depth information did you learn from reading this poem? Okay, did it make you think about things in a different way? Okay, did it give you, because it came from a different perspective? And then, what idea does the poet want you to take away with you concerning the subject of the poem? So we just talked about what you learned, and then you want to think about what it is that you think that the author wanted you to learn. Okay, what is their purpose? Okay. So again, you're writing that in complete sentences and you're defending your answer. Okay, this is why I think this. Okay, again, this piece is 50 points. Okay, so you need to give me 50 points worth of work. Okay, all right. This next part, all right, the topics discussed in Woke are related to many issues that we come in contact with in society. Empathy, social justice, gender, race, equality, equity, etc. Reflect on the videos and poems that you read, okay, by answering the questions in complete sentences. Okay, so question number 1. What topics did you encounter when you watched the videos and analyzed the poem that you were familiar with, okay, or have seen in the news lately? Now, even if you don't watch the news, okay, I'm sure that you've been hearing about a lot of the things that are going on in our country. And whether you agree or disagree with those things is not the point. The point is, what topics have you encountered when you watch these that you have seen, okay, going on? So now, thinking about the subject of your poem, okay, and what this person or what this author or the character in this poem is trying to say, okay, how can you personally relate to the experiences of this person? Now, say that I'm reading the poem about sitting at the lunch counters, okay? As someone who is white, I can't relate particularly to what it is like for someone to judge you based on your darker skin. Okay. However, I can empathize with that struggle and feeling like you are not supposed to be there. Okay. And that has happened in my life in several aspects. And so I could expand on that well, I, as a woman, have felt like that I wasn't wanted certain places because it is something that mostly men do. So those are ways you've got to look a little past the literal situation. Okay. Everyone can connect with something within this book. Okay. Within these poems. Everyone has been treated unfairly at some point by someone. Okay. Everyone has been frustrated by a situation. And I think most people have been judged before people knew them. People make judgments based on, on my hair color, for instance, right? Like, oh, well, she's blonde. She must be really dumb. I've got a master's degree. That's not the case. So, you need to reflect on yourself and how you could relate. So saying nothing is not an appropriate answer. Okay? So go write. Woo! All right. So what surprised you about this book? Okay? So again, you want to think, when I heard that this is what we were going to be doing, and when I heard the title Woke, or when I saw the front cover of this, I thought that da-da-da-da-da. But now I have a deeper understanding of such and such. Or I was surprised that there were so many different kinds of poems. Or several people who have finished their projects already said, I was surprised that I liked it. And I would agree with that. I'm not really one to go and pick up poetry books and read them all the time, right? But this book is special, and it addresses a lot of different topics. So anyway, this is a very long video explaining this. So hopefully you have been working along with me, and this will help you complete this week's assignment.